poppin' everybody, Seb4, and today I'm going to show you how Lycanroc GX is going to adapt to the Sun and Moon format. This is going to be like a kill, basically a version of Fast Dick if you guys are familiar with my Dugtrio Lycanroc GX deck. The concept is kind of the same. The star of the focus is Lycanroc GX and other cheap fighting Pokemon or cheap attackers that can attack with one energy. Instead of Dugtrio though, we're going to be focusing on just like with last time with Buzzwole here, this little basic Pokemon that became pretty popular come the World Championship, and for good reason. You know, it's a 130 HP basic fighting Pokemon. Sledgehammer already is solid doing 30, and when your opponent has 4 prizes, you get the 90 plus bonus, so 120, pretty powerful. Swing around is also pretty solid if you make it work with the B string, and you know, it's basically luxchomp style, in this case Lycanroc GX style. We use our fast fighting Pokemon, pull whatever we want with Lycanroc GX, and attack quick, always do a lot of damage. So let's take things one thing at a time. So first of all, as I've said, Lycanroc GX is the main Pokemon here, the star Pokemon. Normally when you see this Pokemon in fighting decks, he's usually on a 2-2 line or mostly used as a support, and maybe he's going to use his Dangerous Rogue GX attack to get a one-hit knockout if you plan things right. But in this case, I am favoring him. I am willing to run a 4-4 line. So we're going to bloodthirsty eyes all day, pull whatever we want, always disrupt, and you know your opponent doesn't see it coming as well. As I've mentioned, Dangerous Rogue GX is a very good attack. So if you use this right and get a big one-hit knockout on any GX Pokemon, you're already sort of a good step to winning. And Claw Slash it's going to be his usual attack though, since you can only use Dangerous GX Rogue once. And will say this, of course, as better attacks. It's no coincidence why people prefer to run this guy as a backup support Pokemon. But you know, with one fighting energy and one DC, we are able to attack and do solid damage even without the strong energies. It can still do pretty solid damage, pretty fast damage, especially if you play first. You open with this, attach a fighting energy, then get a DC next turn. He's still pretty respectable. So the main Pokemon, this guy, and then for our starter Pokemon that we normally want to start with, this is why Buzzwole is in here. 4 of these guys. If I had a Buzzwole GX, I would have honestly ran 1 Buzzwole GX and 3 of this guy. Buzzwole GX is still very good, putting up the pressure, doing damage on the bench too, especially without any strong energies. And I do run the B string, 1 of this card. So Buzzwole GX is a good Pokemon to power up to with B string, with a Choice Band and Deancey here. He can get a one-hit knockout with his big attack. So that's why. But I can't seem to get it no matter what I do. I can't fucking trade for it. Anyway, so for this guy, if you have a Buzzwole GX, run 1 or 2. It depends on what you prefer. I like this guy. I think it's pretty good that he only gives 1 prize. But maybe even 2 Buzzwole GX wouldn't be bad. Okay, next up we're going to have Regirock here. This is another good fighting Pokemon that isn't weak to Psychic but weak to Grass. The good thing about these Pokemon actually is that they have varying weaknesses. This guy has Grass and the Buzzwoles are weak to Fighting, weak to Psychic. I mean, Regirock is another big basic fighting Pokemon that can do Enhanced Stomp. It's the same idea as Buzzwole. It's going to do solid damage for only 1 energy. If you have a Pokemon tool attached, which we have quite a few in this deck, it does 40. So it does 10 more compared to Buzzwole. Now he doesn't have the extra sort of effect when your opponent has 4 prizes, but Hammer Arm is also pretty solid once we get that going, doing 100 and then discarding the top card of your opponent's deck. This is basically mainly in here just to have an additional, you know, fighting attacker to open with. With these guys, I have basically 5 Pokemon that are pretty good to open with. Obviously, you don't want to open with Deancey, you don't want to open with Tapu Lele GX. Now, if you play first, opening up with Rockruff may not be too bad. I wish this guy actually had a better attack than Surprise Attack, but unfortunately, this is what he has, so we can't really use him to attack earlier, and he's not reliable. but he has 70 HP, only 1 retreat cost. The only other Rockruff that we have, it has 60 HP, 1 retreat cost as well, but a better attack. It doesn't do damage, but it prevents the opponent from retreating. But, you know, this guy is the best one until they give us more, hopefully, in time. Alright, so these are basically the Pokemon. Diancie is basically your MVP fighting support Pokemon. You want to get this on the bench, and it helps with your damage. With this, Lycanroc GX does 130 for Claw Slash, and it helps Dangerous Rogue GX2. We don't have the strong energies, but these fighting Pokemon can still put in the hurt. Of course, you help out Regirock, you help out Buzzwole, so that's why it's in here, helping us do good damage for only 1 energy. And the last Pokemon is Tapu Lele GX, basically for Wonder Attack, gonna improve our consistency. You can actually attack with this Pokemon too with the DC. You probably want to save it for Lycanroc, but maybe there will be situations where it's a good idea to attack with Tapu Lele. Okay, so before I talk about the supporters and the trainers, I want to mention that this deck I tried to make it as consistent as possible, of course, but I am sacrificing consistency for disruption and power. Hence why you see 4 Crush and Hammer. This is a card I absolutely hate, and hate when my opponent runs it. I'm not a fan of it. I almost never use it myself, but you can't deny it's a good card. That's why it's in here. So this deck, like I've said, it aims to disrupt. It aims to catch your opponent off guard. That's the greatest aspect of these fighting Pokemon, is they can attack and do a lot of damage early. So this is what our aim is attack, do a lot of damage early, bloodthirsty eyes all day, luxchomp style. And Crush and Hammers, if you use a couple of these and get heads, you hurt your opponent even more. That's why the Enhanced Hammer is in here. Since we're not running a Stage 2 Pokemon, or we're not running all these energy acceleration decks that I normally run, and you gotta run your energy retrievals and what have you, there's space for more cards in a deck like this. And I went with the disruption route, just like I showed you in the deck on the last deck profile of this deck. Obviously, you can take this out and put more supporters, put more recovery cards, and just increase your consistency. But I went with power or disruption in this case. So this is where the Crush and Hammers, a 4/4 line, and the Enhanced Hammer comes in. Other stuff are pretty standard. We have our 2 Field Blower for Tool and Stadium Disruption. I gotta have my switch. In this case, we have 2 switches because they're not really any good targets for the escape board. It would only be basically Tapu Lele, so we can't get the Floatstone free retreat effect. Okay, I gotta have my Energy Lotto. One of these is good as our energy kind of search. Get us a DC, help us get a DC, or just help us get fighting energies. Not bad, since we don't have a Professor's Letter. Acrobike, one of these. This is a deck that maybe you can actually run more of. Of course, there's always the risk. You don't want to discard valuable resources. Everything that's in here is basically just right. You don't want to discard Lycanroc Jigs for no reason. I'll run 4 basically for this because we do want to take advantage of getting the effect many times, 3 to 4 times. So let's say if you discard 1, that's not good. But 1 Acrobike, just a draw card, gives me a little bit of speed. And then we've gotta have our balls. We have our 2 Nest Balls in this case, and 1 Ultra Ball. I probably run more, but the reason is because we have our Brooklet here, Stadium of Choice. This also fetches me fighting Pokemon. Our opponent can use this too, but it's a great stadium. You gotta run it. It's excellent. And that's basically it for the items. The last thing is the supporters. Oh, and stretcher. Gotta have the 1 stretcher. Pretty good. Now the supporters, they're pretty, standard, but there are some huge changes, of course, since this is the Sun and Moon on format. Of course, we run our playset of Cynthia. Gotta have this, of course, as I always say. Then we do have our Copycat. This is basically like my chorus if this was expanded. This can be pretty good if your opponent has a big hand. If not, then it's not so good. But hopefully, if you just if you get 5 or 6 cards, shuffle and draw 5 or 6 cards, you know, if you draw 5, it becomes a Tate and Liza, and if you draw 6, then it's at least an extra Cynthia, and that's good. And anything better than that, you know, it's a good card. So one of these, it doesn't hurt. Next up, we gotta have our one Tate and Liza. This is also a solid card. The flexibility with the switch is pretty good as well. Not bad. And one Volkner. This is the Skylar dude here. Gets us an item, gets us a tool. And then we got the one Lily. This deck still can make a decent Lily play if we manage to get this and get this with Tapu Lele GX, or, you know, play a bunch of Nest Balls, play our Brooklyn Heal, get Pokemon on the bench, and remove cards from my hand. This can fetch us a good amount of cards. You can try and do something like Apricot Maker 2, but like I've said, you know, I'm sacrificing consistency with things like the Crushing Hammers. If I remove the Crushing Hammers, we could have easily put in more Nest Balls, Ultra Ball, and Apricot Maker, Extra Lilies, whatever. And speaking of which, for the power thing, that's where Kukui comes in. With Kukui, this is another damage adder. Draw 2 and do the 20 extra. Instead of doing something like Looker with this guy, I almost always had this guy in this deck. It's just you're putting yourself in situations where you do solid damage, and then your opponent's Pokemon could be in range to get knocked out, and your opponent doesn't see it coming. If you do something like use a Kukui, attach Choice Band, these sorts of things, with Lycanroc GX or another Pokemon. So that's why it's in here. And speaking of which, I actually didn't talk about the tools here, but let's look at the final supporter here. It's going to be Ultra Recon Squad. So I considered not running this and running something like perhaps another Lily, maybe. I think that would be the best option. But you know, this card is actually not bad. Discard up to 2 Ultra Beasts and draw 3 cards for each card you discarded this way. So a lot of the times, you know, I know how my bench needs to look like. We want to have at least 3 Rockruffs down for 3 chances to use Lycanroc GX. You definitely want a spot for Diancie, so that's 4 spots there. And then maybe you want to have 1 Regirock, 1 Buzzwole down, or 2 Buzzwoles down, something like that. Or the better scenario is a full, let's say, line of Lycanroc GXs, the Diancie, and only have one of these small guys down as backup if you especially have one active. So that's where the Ultra Recon Squad comes in. We don't necessarily are going to use all of the Buzzwoles in the game. They're just basically, I run them in 4 so that we have a great chance to open with them, maybe have some as backup. But after the game starts going and you power up Lycanroc GX, you're favoring that Pokemon. So yeah, maybe you're going to have 1 or 2 and you're able to discard them and draw cards. The ideal thing is to discard 2 and draw 6. If you discard 1 to draw 3, is not good. This is why I said I would really like to run Buzzwole. I mean, actually, when you think about it, if we would run Buzzwole GX2, I can remove Regirock as opposed to one of these guys, and they basically do the same thing anyway. And then we have 5 Pokemon as targets for Ultra Recon Squad. So that's pretty good. I like it. Maybe you don't want to run this. You just want to run Lily for a reliable draw, or another copycat, Tate and Liza, whatever. It's up to you. But I like it the way it is. It makes sense for me. Alright. I'm pretty sure I mentioned the B string. But yeah, we are running one of these. Once our opponent is at 3 or 4 prizes, getting those extra fighting energies on this guy and getting a little bit of energy acceleration. This deck really appreciates it because you don't have any ways to accelerate energy. Basically, you just really want to not miss an attachment every turn and, you know, do your shit right. Make sure this guy survives so you get a turn to attack and attach an energy. These sorts of things. Okay. So the last trainer cards, I guess, that I forgot to talk about were the offensive tools. We have 3 choice bands, basically for GX Pokemon. Pretty standard. It gives a lot of damage. And then I have 1 poison barb. So I could have added something like the new belt thing from Celestial Storm, or maybe do squeeze in on a skateboard just to soften up retreat for Lycanroc, or maybe do get that on Tapulele. But this is basically we're running an extra tool just to make Regirock have a better chance to use Enhanced Stop to its best. Get that extra 20. Poison Barb is an offensive card as well. Once they attack us, they're going to get poisoned. So they should get some decent damage for free on them with this card. So it's not bad, attaching anywhere. We could have done something like dumbbells too to increase the Lycanroc GX's health, but it's not worth it just for this guy. So Poison Barb the way to go. And the energies are the same as always. You gotta have the 4 double colorless energy for Lycanroc GX. Pretty valuable. Of course, you're always susceptible to Enhance Hammer. This deck hates Enhance Hammer. It's not so bad now that we don't have strong energies, but we're sacrificing power for them. And then the rest is the fighting energies. I believe there would be 8 in this case, since 4 would be strong. We don't have strong in this case, so let's see, 4, 6, 9 actually. Yeah, I'm bad at maths. 9 fighting energies. Okay, and that's basically the deck. Just a few changes basically. It's pretty viable for the Sun and Moon format, pretty strong. It will sometimes break, like I've said, because I'm favoring things like Crush and Hammer. You can take these out, add more supporters, and it will probably be more consistent that way. But you're losing the disruption, and I really dig that. As long as we have one supporter every turn, the deck performs okay. It's not like I'm digging for too many things. So that's when it really shines, when you can use the Crushing Hammers, you get a little bit lucky, then use a Lily or Cynthia, draw a lot of cards, and keep pushing. So that's basically the deck. Like I said, if you've got Buzzwole GX, definitely put that in and take out maybe one of this guy, or the Regirock EX, just Regirock. But anyways, so hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys subscribe, leave a like, share this with your friends. Of course, I'm going to show games with this deck, as I usually do. Cerebro 24, what's up?